everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. Another quick video on my upper level progress. The last time I posted it was basically showing some of the things that I was working on with the front part of the peninsula here. Just a lot of trees and ground cover, some bushes. I lifted the terrain a little bit to make it look a little hilly here. And I had already shown you all the progress that I made with the cement and gravel facility, and also the grain elevator tracks back there, the siding and the storage track, along with the little transfer tracks here on this side. So basically what I've done since then is, as you can see, obviously I added some fascia to the upper level here that wasn't there. I also brought the plaster cloth right up to the fascia board to make it look, you know, more realistic with different heights and the elevation, the ground elevation here. I brought it down by the dried up river here, and obviously it just kept going up and down kind of randomly. I wanted this to be kind of open here because the S-curve kind of jets out a little bit there, so I wanted to have a peak. And what I mean by that is that my plan, as I mentioned in the last video, is to make this entire strip all the way up to there kind of feel like it's in the middle of nowhere. And I want it to be very dense, almost like forest-like. I've been watching a lot of videos that have been posted with single line railroads that go through Pennsylvania, like back hills and things like that, and the trees are just almost like wrapping around the line, you know, up and over both sides, and I love the way that looks. The only tricky thing with that is that you need access to the track, obviously, for maintenance and for cleaning and whatever. So I'm going to hint at that. I'm going to just put a lot of trees on both sides, meaning, sorry about that, meaning just trees coming here but kind of jetting out over the line, and then on the other side the same thing. So they're almost going to connect at the top here, creating like almost like a tunnel kind of thing, but not so much that you can't see anything, but enough so you can see through them, and make it look like the train's going through the tree line. With that said, you know, I can easily get access to the track because this is such a thin shelf. I think it's less than a foot, and so it's easy for me to get my hand in there if I really needed to. And you know, if there was some kind of like emergency track work or whatever that I had to make, which I doubt will ever happen, I could just take some of the trees down. But generally speaking, I think that's what I'm going to go with. But I did want the train to be seen here as it comes through. So if you can imagine a bunch of trees here kind of covering here and a bunch of trees here kind of covering there, and then in the back of the train also. But nothing much here, maybe just one or two, just kind of, so it looks like it's going through and there's a clearing here. So yes, so what I've done again is just I added this panel, painted it, it now blends in nicely. I added the fascia board. I stopped here because I just ran out of material, and I got a little lazy with cutting. But basically all of this was added since the last time I posted, all the way through. I already showed you all this, and I went all the way around basically to the same point on the other side right here, and then obviously I got to continue over to that end, but I just need to buy more material. So the other thing I wanted to show you today, because I did get some comments about my tree line, which, I mean, what you see there and what you see here, I basically did it in a very, very simple way, but I guess some people were curious to see what my technique was. So what I figured is I'd show you. I'm just gonna finish this off here. I'm just gonna go, you know, from there to there, and just show you what I do. There's no science to it. It's not even that good, but it's all going to be covered anyway. It's just so that when you put a tree there, you don't just see sky behind it. It kind of makes it blend in the same way I did it on that corner over there. I basically, you know, painted the tree line just peeking over. You can see right there. That's all paint there. But it blends in nicely when you look at it at this angle. Instead of seeing the sky kind of shining through the back there, it kind of makes it look darker and a little bit more detailed. Like that. So that's my plan for all of this. And if I don't like it, I could always put a photo backdrop around top of it, so it won't matter. But I'm gonna go with this because the photo backdrops that I've been looking at are not, you know, they're good, but the only ones I like I've already used, and I don't want to be very repetitive with the backdrops because then it looks like the same thing on both sides. So I'm gonna go with the old school method of just painting the trees in, and I think they look pretty good. So it's basically, here's what I do. I just take a fan brush. This is like a cheapo, you know, AC Moore's, $3 for like, you know, 4 brushes like this, different sizes. And it's just big enough so that I can get in there without creating too much, you know, if you get it too big or too small, it's just hard to work with. So this covers a lot of ground, but at the same time I can get into the corners and stuff. And all I'm doing is taking just cheap acrylic paint. This is Folk Art, and it's number 1628. It's just a, you know, it's like a dark green. You can do whatever green, I guess. It's just the first thing I picked up, honestly. I wasn't even trying to match the trees perfectly or anything, but you know, as long as there's some kind of green, you know, and it's not like neon green or something, I think it's fine. I mean, that's what I'm using for that, and that seems to be okay. And then also I'm using, this is what I've been using for the entire layout. It's called Trail Tan, number 02435 from this company, Delta. And that's what I use for all the ground cover before I put any kind of foam or dirt on it, just to make it look like sand or, you know, some kind of light dirt. And then I just throw it on one of these, you know, mixing palettes here, whatever. And what I do is, first I start with just the green. I take the fan brush and just kind of, you know, so you don't need a lot of paint, but I just kind of dab it in there. And then I start kind of, you know, vertically. You don't want to go this way. Vertically, just kind of dabbing. So, you know, you're kind of going straight up. And, you know, I actually want the bristles to bend a little bit because it gives a sense of like the branches going outward as well. And just kind of work it through. Just keep adding paint. And if you see that it gets too thick, just kind of, you know, you work it in. And, you know, the core or like the center, this area here, it doesn't really matter. You can overdo it if you want, or, you know, you can go darker and lighter, it doesn't matter. Because it'll eventually blend in. What I think matters more is the tops. But even like down here, I'll just go like this, just to get in there. What I really care about is the tops. So, you know, I try to make the tops look connected, because sometimes you get like a little paint just kind of running away from you, like there. And I just keep working through that. Just like that. This brush is a little bit old, so it's like the bristles are stuck together, so it's a little harder to work with. I guess a brand new brush would definitely be easier to work with. But you know, you don't have to be careful or anything. It's just kind of throwing paint down. You just have to have some kind of idea of where you want the tree line to go. You know, obviously, you know, I guess if you just make it straight, it'll look fake. It'll look weird. But if you try to have different heights, and you know, it'll just hint at different size trees and things like that. The other thing I'm trying to be careful with, because I've actually never done this before, is how tall I can make the trees. And what I mean by that is that, you know, there's only so much ground here for me to stick a tree in there. So I don't know how if I pick a really large tree, it might jet out too much, and then it'll be like on top, like it'll interfere with the train. So I might not want to go too high here on the tree line, because then I'm going to have to match that so that the paint isn't like sticking out too far at the top. So I'm just going to keep this a little bit lower in this area here. And like I said before, I'm just kind of covering right now. It doesn't really matter. I'll go back and touch it up. But I just want to make my way all the way to the other side. Sorry about the shakiness, it's hard to do this with one hand. A little more paint. The other thing that's happening, and I'm sure many of you experience this, is that I'm running out of room to put things. So, you know, in order for me to put things down, like the paint palette and all the paint brushes and things like that, I actually have to put it on the layout. So I gotta be careful not to like spill paint or do something that's gonna ruin what I've already done. So again, I'm not too worried about the heights right now, except for the fact that I gotta be careful with what's happening in front of the tree line. Now that I think of it, I have some like loose foam here that I guess it was excess. And when I mix it into the paint, it actually helps give it a thicker look, like a more full look. Probably can't see it on the camera, but it actually helps a little bit. Not that important though, because again, most of this stuff is going to be covered anyway. So, like even this brown thing here, that's this line here, it looks like, when you see it here live in person, it looks like a little hill, you know, and there's just shrubs and things in front of it. You know, I'm also not too worried, like if I make a mistake, like I just got some paint there, and if I don't want to go that high, I still have more of this blue paint. I have a lot of this blue paint left. And it matches perfectly every time. Like I didn't touch it for like a year, and I threw it back up there, and it was perfectly blending in. So I'm not too worried about it. If I make a mistake, I could always fix it with the blue paint. You see that the ground level comes up a little bit here, so I might go a little higher here with the tree line. Just hide the screw here with the paint. That was a rookie mistake that I made, putting that screw too high. I made a lot of mistakes, but I was lucky enough to be able to cover up most of them. And that's basically the base coat of what's going to be the tree line. So now what I'm going to do is go back and start giving it more height and different, like more variation with the height. So maybe at this point it might come up a little bit here. This one I didn't finish up, so let's bring it up a little bit. So this straight line to me looks kind of weird, so I'm gonna just round that out a little bit. I got that there, and then maybe another lift here. Just fill it in. And that's basically, you know, just by doing that, it makes it look a lot better. Maybe like a soft, over here I'll make like a soft curve. Kind of like that. And again, just come back and fill it in. But you know, the fan brush basically gives it that texture of like branches and leaves and things. But like I mentioned before, I guess the only thing you should try not to do is just like, get paint like separated like that, because then it looks like this. It's just a floating tree, a floating tree branch or leaves or whatever. So that's how you fix that. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you take a look, there's nothing connecting the tippy top of that, but it doesn't matter. When you see it from far away, you can't really tell anyway, so I'm not worried about it. All these lines going back and forth almost give it a sense of either branches, or when you look at a forest, there's just stuff everywhere, especially if it's dense. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. I left this quite a bit here because I am going to put a big tree in this corner here. To kind of, I don't like these sharp angles when there's a corner. So what I do is I try to mask it by just adding height or changing in format here, and it actually helps out. So when I put a tree here, let's say this here, whatever the tree's going to be, it'll make it look rounder rather than this like jagged edge here. So that's basically the base of this this tree line here. Now what I do is I'll go back while the paint's still kind of wet. I'll go back, I'll mix a little bit of the tan color with the green. And what that does is it gives a lighter shade of green. And then I'll just go back and here and there just kind of add shades like that. And right here. And I'll even, sometimes even surpass some of the height there, because it looks like the tree's either closer or further away when you do that. Kind of like that. And it might not look obvious right now, but when it dries, the tan really pulls through, and it makes it look so much better. It gives it a lot more depth. And in some spots, I've even gone like really heavy on the tan, like this, for example. You don't want it to be perfectly tan, because then you're just basically making it look like the dirt in front of it. But it does help to kind of blend in the green. For example, I did like the heavy brown, but I just went over it a little bit with green, and it does help blend it in a little more. If you're a real artist, you're probably looking at this saying, "This is horrible work." Yeah, you're right. It probably is. But I'm not an artist, so I'm. This is as far as I'm willing to go with this kind of stuff. I love scenery, but I'm not a big fan of painting backdrops. It's just, like I said, I'm doing it because somebody was curious to know how I did it. But at a glance, again, it's pretty good. And once I get the trees in front of it, you won't even see half of that stuff. This is kind of good already, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. Just a little thing here and there. That's about it. Just like that. This one has a little bit of a jagged look. Fill that in a little bit there. And so let me just show you the overall look. As you can see, starting from here. Like, see, I went really heavy there on the. I might touch that up. That looks a little ridiculous. And there's a screw right in the middle of that. But when I put a tree in front of it, it won't matter. As you can see, this is the new section, right after the caboose, basically. And it blends right in. And it takes 2 seconds to do. So easy. I guess as long as I keep the technique pretty consistent, it'll blend in. Obviously, where I have more ground you know, that's giving me more distance from the track, that's where I'm planning to put the heavier or larger trees. And then what I might do here, where I have a really thin piece of you know, land there, I might just make the tree flat backed. So in other words, like a tree like this, just make sure the back is completely flat and it's just jutting out the front. In fact, let me see if I have something like that. I have a box of super trees. No, I don't have anything right now, but a lot of times when you have super trees, when you get them right out of the box, some of them are really, really flat. They look like, you know, there's no body to them. So, yeah, that's what we'll probably do. Anyways, that's pretty much it. So that's my progress so far and my little tutorial on the trees. And that's all she wrote. The next time I see you, hopefully I'll have the spur finished. It's the last one I haven't done. And somebody, this gentleman, Steven, suggested fixing my reverse loop section here by connecting, if I got this right, connecting, this is like the westbound, for example, putting another turnout here and connecting it to the eastbound siding on this area, somewhere around there, and that will give me enough distance here to get 1 or 2 locomotives in there and flip the polarity for the reverse. The problem was that here, there's no way that's all I get right there to flip the polarity, and so there was no way around it from my limited electrician skills. So hopefully we'll see more progress there, and then the next thing would be to start that back area where all that stuff is stored. So the spur, like I said in the last video, is right there. It's gonna just go straight into that section, but I'm going to take that top layer of wood, that plank, off. It's not connected, and then do all my track work on the side, and then I'll just, even all the scenery, I'll probably do everything, and then I can just throw it back on there, and it'll have its own power, so I won't even need to connect it as far as rail joiners are concerned. And that's it. Okay, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.